So, Shannon, I saw you tweeting about this. How do you explain it?
Jenny, I don't believe there's an explanation that they can adequately give you, because either one or two things are happening. Two things can be true. Either they extended Carson Wentz too soon because he had an injury history. Remember, his senior year in college, Skip, he missed half the season with a broken wrist. And then you come to find out, okay, he got nicked. Remember, Skip, he tore his ACL, missed the final 3 games, missed the playoffs. He hurt his back 1 year. He missed the last 3 games. And so this was the first year, if I'm not mistaken, maybe this year in his rookie season, were the first seasons in which he stayed completely healthy. And he's in the first year, he's 27. He's in the first year of a $108 million contract, $63 million, which are fully guaranteed. Now, Skip, I want to make this crystal clear. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts should not have been a second-round pick. I believe the Eagles shouldn't have selected him in the second round because I don't get what you're trying to do. And I've heard all these theories. They're going to have a package like Taysom Hill. I don't think Taysom Hill was that high of a draft pick, Skip. If you get a guy in the 5th or 6th round and you want to use some gadgets, okay. But to spend a second-round draft pick, you don't spend that kind of draft capital on a guy and say, yeah, he's going to be a gadget guy. You're expecting him to play. And so it's almost, Skip, that you're betting that, nah, we don't believe he's going to stay healthy. But because you've invested so much money in Carson Wentz, you know what, Skip? That'll be $30, $40 million of dead cap. I just don't see it. It doesn't make sense to me. I believe they could have gone out and got another wide receiver or gotten a player that could have helped them this year, not down the future. Everybody's preparing for a rainy day, Well, you know, I'm going to have this storage, but you're starving right now. What good is food 5, 6 years from now if you're starving right now? I get it. They did address, Skip, hopefully D-Jack comes back. They drafted a wide receiver. Okay, I get that. But I believe there are better needs, what they needed as a team, than a backup quarterback. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I get what they say, well, you know, Carson knows what we think about him. He remember the picks that we gave up for him. We gave him a long-term contract. That doesn't mean anything. A 15-carat diamond ring does not mean anything to a female if her husband is having an affair. That's all I'm going to say, Skip Bayless. All the money that you spent, all the draft capital that you gave to give up means nothing if you do what they did. And that's my point.
Okay. Quick point of order. Taysom Hill was an undrafted free agent signed by the Green Bay Packers and then cut after training camp. That's the difference in this situation and that situation. The Saints just picked him up off the waiver wire and said, well, let's give this guy a shot because he is 6'3", 230, and he did run a 4.4 at his pro day. He didn't even go to the combine. And he did have a vertical of 38.5 inches, which would have topped all the quarterbacks at the combine in 2017. So Taysom Hill came out of the blue for the New Orleans Saints. And I'll tell you what, Jalen Hurts came out of the blue going to Philadelphia in the second round for me. Now, to my overall takeaway, this made me sick on 2 levels. Number one, I have told you from the start, I love Jalen Hurts. Unfortunately, on another level, I hate the Philadelphia Eagles. I have hated them since I was 10 years old, and my mother somehow brought me this pennant from a game that she went to, an exhibition game, a preseason game at the University of Oklahoma featuring the Philadelphia Eagles, who were just on a barnstorming mission at that point back in my childhood, trying to put the NFL on the map. And she brought me a green pennant and wanted to put it up on my wall. And I was like, no, I don't like it. I don't like the Eagles, and I despise the fact that a quarterback I love and Jalen Hurts is now an Eagle. I just can't stand the thought of it because I told you from the start, Jalen Hurts is good enough to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League, and he is good enough to carry a team to the playoffs on his leadership intangibles and his playmaking and simply his killer will, because he will put a team on his back and he will carry it. And Jalen Hurts, I know he had his struggles at Alabama, but if you look at his overall record at Alabama and Oklahoma, he was 38-4. And he played in as many big games as probably any quarterback who ever came out of college football when you talk about all the big games at Alabama and in the playoffs and then at Oklahoma and in last year's playoff. So the point is, I wanted him to go somewhere where I'd say, aha, he's got a shot. I don't know, Jacksonville. You'd say, well, maybe he could compete with Gardner Minshew for the job, at least in a year or two. And here, I don't know what they're trying to say. I don't get the message, because the best case scenario I can see off the top is he would be a Taysom Hill. He would be a gadget guy. He would be a, as they used to call Cordell Stewart in his first couple of years with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a slash, as in receiver slash running back slash whatever else you want to call him, but you don't even put a quarterback on the end of the slashes. So maybe there's a package. Right. Maybe it's Dougie P, as you call him, Dougie Prediction, as I call him, fearless, who can sometimes be fearful. Maybe he's saying, well, I'm the new offensive coordinator, because remember, they thought about hiring Josh McCown, who was their quarterback last year, their backup quarterback, and had to play the playoff game because Carson Wentz got a concussion early in that game. They thought about making him the offensive coordinator, and now it's, nope, they didn't hire him. Doug Peterson is the coordinator, the play caller. He wears every hat on the football side of that organization. So he's saying, I want Jalen Hurts to be in all my packages. Yet I'm starting to wonder, do they really not trust, because I have to ask this question, do they not trust Carson Wentz as a performer and as a durable quarterback? He did get concussed early in the playoff game after he did make it through all 16 of the regular season games. So I give him that. He had a pretty good year last year. Pro Football Focus ranked him 16th. I've never been the biggest fan. I still think he gets a little deer in headlights in the pocket. Maybe he needs more weapons, and yet in the end, he sort of got Aaron Rodgers a little bit, because they did take a receiver in the first round, but they took one that I thought was going to be a second or third round receiver in Jalen Reagor. And I know Mel Kiper was left scratching his head over this one, because they left 4 receivers on the board where I said, wait, they didn't take Justin Jefferson or Ayuk or Denzel Mims, or I could just go on. These are stud receivers. And I'm thinking, really? Jalen Reagor? And then they take Jalen Hurts in the second round. And I'm saying, gee, that wasn't a very good draft. We're going to get to my Cowboys in a few minutes here on the show. The Cowboys had a great draft. So I think the Eagles actually set themselves back with this draft, because I can't see where Jalen Hurts is going to help enough immediately to justify his second-round pick.
And that's where, Skip, you and I agree. And I was saying, I forgot that Taysom Hill was a undrafted free agent, but I was saying, if you want to take a guy, Skip, and say the 5th or the 6th round, and you want to use him as a gadget guy, okay, that's no harm, no foul. That's not a whole lot invested in a guy. But you invest, when you take a guy with the second round, and I'm talking about a very high second round pick, Skip, that's a heavy investment. And I don't get the benefit of the first, unless, look, and knock on wood, Skip, I hope nothing happens, unless something happens to Carson Wentz. Is that what you're saying? It's almost, Skip, like you're betting that something's going to happen, because, you know, Skip, you don't want to talk it, you don't want to speak it into existence, or you don't want to do things that bring this, like, man, we got that guy over there for a reason, you know, just in case, just a rainy day. Skip, I don't get it. He's going into the first year of a $108 million contract. He's 27. You invested $63 million. Fully guaranteed, Skip. I don't care what else happened to the rest of the contract. He's getting $63 million. And you take a quarterback. Skip, if Carson Wentz was 37, I don't know if I could have an argument with it, with his injury history. But a guy that's 27, and you just gave him $100 million, not even a year ago, and you go back and get another quarterback in the draft? Nah, I can't get down with this one. And I'm not saying Jalen Hurts should not have gone in the second round. I just believe Philly should have gone in another direction. It seems to me, Skip, they're trying to upgrade the receiver with speed. Jalen Reagor ran 4.42. We know what D-Jack can do. He still can get down the field in a hurry. If I'm not mistaken, Skip, they tried to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. And as Howie Roseman said, the deal that they got from Arizona was not the deal that they offered us. So in other words, Skip, they tried to, try to get over on the Eagles, and they're like, nah. And then they go to the Cardinals and get a second-round pick, which makes me think they probably wanted a first and another pick for DeAndre Hopkins and settle for a second-round pick as they gave the Texans their fourth round pick. So for me, Skip, I just don't see it. I don't see it, and I've tried, and immediately I'm like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me.
Just to be fair, the Eagles did go get and take sort of a cheap shot to acquire Marquise Goodwin from the 49ers. He's been hurt a lot. That. He can fly. He has like Olympic speed, but he's getting up there in years, and he's been beat up. And I think it's just sort of a long shot maybe to see if he can contribute a little bit as a deep receiver occasionally. Now let's go back to the Taysom Hill situation. The Saints just gave him a $21 million deal. He was making $4 million last year. So they upgraded him. They're going to keep him in the fold for a while, but they have clearly promised him at least a shot at competing for the starting job if, in fact, this is the last year for Drew Brees. Drew Brees is 41 now. He'll be 42 on January the 15th. He's made some noise about this being his last year. Sean Payton has made a lot of noise about this being his last year. So at least a Taysom Hill can sit back and say, okay, I'm good to commit for a little longer here in New Orleans because I think I have a shot. Obviously, it looks like they're about to sign Jameis Winston for 1 year as their Bridgewater quarterback, their true backup to Drew Brees, just the way Teddy Bridgewater was a year ago. So Jameis is just there for a year. If Drew does go down as he did last year with this thumb injury early on, I think they'd go with Jameis, and I'm not sure what that says to Taysom Hill. I thought maybe they go with Taysom last year. But again, I think they're saying we value Taysom as our gadget guy, and he did have a big game. Remember that game they lost to the Vikings, obviously, at home in the playoff game.
Yes.
But he did have a big completion for 50 yards in that game, and he ran 4 times from 50 yards, and he caught 2 balls for 25 more and a touchdown. So that's sort of the maximum you're going to get out of a Jalen Hurts type of guy, the way I think Philadelphia is going to use him. So the point is, Taysom's in a much better spot coming from nowhere as an undrafted free agent cut by Green Bay than Jalen Hurts is. And I believe today, in his heart of hearts, Jalen Hurts is hurt, as I was hurt with him going to Philadelphia, because I'm pretty sure he views himself as a guy who can compete for a starting job. And now he has to be committed to saying all the right things about Carson Wentz, which he will, because he is nothing but a team player. I think that's another reason they drafted him, is because his intangibles and character are as high as you can get. So I'm sure Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson are saying, well, he'll be a good soldier. He'll take a back seat. He'll say and do the right things. He won't be any threat to Carson Wentz, at least publicly. And then let's see what happens. But to me, it's in the end, these guys get cute to me. It's what I don't like about Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson. They're watch this guys. Watch what we do, NFL. We'll do something nobody else is even thinking about doing, and we'll show you. Well, at the expense of Jalen Hurts, you might do that. Maybe at the expense of your starting quarterback, Carson Wentz, you might do that. And I'll throw this out. I know how much you love walk it to him Wentz, Shannon, but I never, from a distance, get the feeling that his confidence is that high. I always feel like it's a little bit shaky. We saw the story a year ago in the offseason that he wasn't the best teammate. He can be a little bit of a diva behind the scenes, can be a little bit hard to get along with. I think he mended a lot of those fences during the season last year that he had. But the point is, he might be threatened by this. He might be more prone to speak out against the presence of Jalen Hurts. And I do think it might hurt down the road his confidence if he's looking over his shoulder at a Jalen Hurts who might come in and make a splash play here and there. And you know what's going to happen in the city of not so brotherly love? They're going to start booing Carson Wentz like that if they start thinking Jalen Hurts might be the better playmaker. So, again, I think they've created a very dangerous situation, not quite an Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, but somewhere in the ballpark of that. I think they will live to regret putting Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz in this situation.
Yeah, Skip, and let's start with Carson Wentz first. And, you know, we call it walk it to him, but it looks like the Eagle are detouring to Carson Wentz because, Skip, look, when you take a guy this high, regardless of the position, the guy that plays the position before you drafted this guy is going to be threatened. That's just the way it works. It's just like in your job, you have a job, and they get somebody that's like, oh, well, what does he do? Your job? Well, you're like, oh, yeah, come on in, buddy. Yeah, let me show you the ropes. That's not what you did. There are some people that do that, but that's few and far between, Skip, because there's only so many of these jobs available. There's only 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and they just drafted someone that Carson Wentz probably believes they drafted this kid for a reason. Skip, you mentioned Taysom Hill. Skip, he's on kicker, he's on punt team. Jalen Hurts gonna play punt team? He's on punt block. He's gonna block punt. He's gonna. What special team, Skip, do you see a scenario where Jalen Hurts is playing? That's why they got Taysom Hill, Skip. And remember, he had, I think he blew out his knee either his junior year or his senior year. So that had a lot to do with why he didn't get drafted, invited to the combine, and one of the reasons why he didn't get drafted. But because of his size, 6'3", 230, 235, he can do it all. You can hand him the ball. You can throw him the ball. He can throw the ball. Skip, we've seen him block punts. We've seen him return a punt. So we've seen him do a lot of different things. Skip, they've kind of invested in this guy. They gave him 2 years, $21 million. They gave him $16 million fully guaranteed. So basically, Skip, that's a lot of money. And I love it like that because, see, a lot of times they throw out numbers where we're offering to make him the highest paid player. How much fully guaranteed? Skip, that is a very good contract for Taysom Hill, considering that he's not going to be the starter and he got $16.5 million fully guaranteed. That's a lot of money. Now, I'm not saying that Jameis, if they sign Jameis, and I love this pick, Skip, for Jameis and the Saints, because you get an opportunity to see, Jameis, we need to work on some things here. Getting the ball out of your hand quicker, not always looking for the deep shot, and we got to cut down on these mistakes. You're going to mistake yourself out of this league if you don't stop turning this football over. So I like the pick for them, Skip, but for the Eagles, I need Howie Roseman and Dougie P to get me in a room and sit me down and let me hear the rationale for why you took a quarterback in the second round when you got a 27-year-old that's about to start the first year of a $108 million contract. I just need to know because I don't see the scenario where he helps them next year.
I like the point you made about Jalen Hurts playing special teams. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to play special teams. I'm very sure he's never played special teams before. Again, his father was his high school coach. I don't think Jalen Hurts played special teams in high school. Pretty sure not at Alabama, very sure at Oklahoma. And I just don't think he wants to play special teams in Philadelphia. As a second-round pick, I don't think you should lower yourself to ask him. It's beneath his dignity to be asked to play special teams. It was easier with Taysom because he came to you as a street free agent. He had been cut by the Green Bay Packers. And he was more of a gadget guy than Jalen ever has been or ever thought about being because he was more of a jack of all trades. In high school, in college, he did get hurt. I think every year he was at BYU, he got hurt. And remember, he went on a Mormon mission to, I believe, Australia. So he came late to the NFL, so he's an older player. So he didn't have much leverage. he had to earn his way onto the New Orleans roster.
Right.
So he came in with helmet in hand, so to speak, and he had to do the dirty work to even make the roster. Jalen Hurts, as a second-round pick, is going to say, gee, I don't want to play punt block team. It's not who I am or what I do. Now, I've always said about Jalen, he's Tebow-esque to me, but I don't mean that he's Tim Tebow. He's a much better, consistent thrower of the football than Tim was, though Tim got deadly accurate in the last 5 minutes of those games for your Broncos back in 2011. But the impact of Jalen is Tebow-esque. He's got that kind of aura about him. He's that kind of playmaker because he will beat you with his arm even more than Tim could, and with his legs, maybe even more than Tim could. Jalen Hurts can really tote the rock. He's strong. Yeah. He's always pound for pound the strongest guy on the team in the weight room. And he ran 4.5. He doesn't look fast with the football under his arm, but he's elusive and he's powerful. Mm-hmm. He's just hard to get on the ground. He will run through linebackers. And he has remained very durable as opposed to, say, Tua at Alabama. Jalen has always been durable. So I believe they're envisioning him as, we can play him at running back. We can play him at H-back. We can play him as a slot back. We can do a lot of different things with him to get the ball in his hands. Well, now we're back to what Drew Brees has had to put up with Taysom Hill. I've always thought it was a slight to Drew Brees, obviously a cinch first ballot Hall of Famer, that fairly regularly Drew Brees either had to trot out to the edge of the formation as a decoy, or he had to trot completely off the field and let Taysom run the show for a couple of plays, or at least for one. And I believe you're going to be seeing quite a bit of that next year in Philly. And Carson Wentz doesn't deserve that. He's been better than that to have to share some snaps with Jalen Hurts. It just doesn't work for me on either level. It's not fair to either quarterback. Jalen Hurts deserves a chance to win the job. And if they do give him a chance to win the job, then the joke is on Philadelphia anyway.
You skip, because when you look at Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill went to the Saints kind of like I went to the Broncos. Okay, let me show you all the things I can do. You need me to play special teams? Okay. You need me on kickoff? Okay. You want me to play tight end, H-back, whatever you need me to play. Skip, Jalen Hurts says, I'm a second-round pick. You about to give me 3 years. You about to give me guaranteed money. So I don't need to show that I can run the football, even though I will. But Skip, he's not playing special teams. He's not being on punt, kickoff, kick return, punt return. He's not doing any of that.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.